Welcome back to another episode of Around the World. This is episode 15 as we continue to move along this NBA season, our longest break between an in-season episode, and that was just because of Thanksgiving. I decided to take the Friday episode off, which means we have a lot to talk about in this episode because we had a lot of important games happen. We had some groups start to shape up in the NBA Cup, so we have a lot of topics to talk about, including some crazy performances as well. Starting first, as always, with our community question, which for me is who are going to be the next teams to clinch their way into the next round of the in-season tournament. Here's a look at the groups. I'm going to say it out loud and hopefully it makes sense for you guys. Out east, we have just one team that is clinched, and that is the Atlanta Hawks, who clinched Group C. Out west, we have two clinchers, the Warriors and the Rockets in Group A and Group C. So, Group B is still undecided, and then we, of course, have to have somebody that makes it through wild card in both conferences. We'll start with the Eastern Conference. We have the Knicks against the Magic coming up on Tuesday, which big game for both teams. Personally, for me, the Knicks have looked really, really good. They just absolutely destroyed the Pelicans. So I think I'm actually going to take the Knicks to go on and win this group. But that does not necessarily mean that the Magic are eliminated. And I'll explain why right here. In Group B, the Bucks play the Pistons. I think it'll come to no surprise. I'm going to take the Bucks in that game. Giannis absolutely destroyed them earlier this season, and the Bucks look better than they have earlier in the year over the course of the last few weeks. So I'm going to take the Bucks to win Group B. So I've got the Knicks winning Group A, the Bucks winning Group B, and then the Magic are going to be the wild card team that makes it through because their points differential is just simply ridiculous. All the other teams outside of the Knicks, the Magic, the Pistons, and Bucks are eliminated in the Eastern Conference, except for the Celtics. I will say the Celtics are still there. But the Magic have that plus 60 point differential. So if the Knicks win, pretty much no matter what, the Magic are going to make it through just on point differential alone, barring a 30-point blowout. Different story becomes if the Magic win, because if the Magic win, the Knicks only have a 15-point differential. So now we're talking about the Pistons or Bucks making it, whoever loses that game, or the Celtics, depending on how big that loss is in the Bucks-Pistons game. But I'm going to go the Celtics get eliminated, Hawks come from Group C, Bucks make it through in Group B, and the Knicks and Magic will make it through out of Group A, the Knicks winning the group, the Magic being the wild card. On to the West. This one's a little bit easier because we already have some teams locked up. Group A is done. The Rockets have won Group A. The Blazers are 2-1. Even if they beat the Clippers, which I don't expect them to, they would go to 3-1 with very likely a very even point differential. Just don't see them making it through in that situation. Warriors already made it through. Biggest one is the Dallas Mavericks in terms of likelihood of a wild card. The Dallas Mavericks have a 41 point differential, plus 41 point differential. They play Memphis. So if they beat Memphis by even 1 point, they all but guarantee themselves making it through as a wild card team. However, Memphis has looked quite good. I mean, I believe they're the 3 seed out in the Western Conference right now, so it certainly would not be a walkthrough. But I would assume they'd have Kyrie back for this game. They didn't have him just last night, and Luka's back as well for the Mavericks, which is very, very important, although the Mavericks were great without him. So I'm going to take the Mavericks right now as my wild card pick out there. The Warriors winning Group C. Now we move on to Group B. The winner of Group B, I think, is going to be the OKC Thunder. Spurs and Phoenix play each other, so one of them is going to drop below OKC, barring an OKC ridiculous loss versus Utah, which I certainly do not expect at all. And because they play Utah, they can run up that point differential. So a 20-point win pretty much guarantees them making it through unless the Suns or Spurs blow out the other one by 20 points. And even then, OKC already has the point differential favorite over the San Antonio Spurs. So I'm going to take OKC out of Group B, the Rockets out of Group A, and out of Group C, I'm going to take the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks as a wild card. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let's go ahead and get on cruising through what happened over literally the last week, because we have not talked since last Monday. Starting first with a lot of players who returned this week. Ja Morant, KD and Bradley Beal, DeJounte Murray, Kristaps Porzingis, Malik Monk, and Lonzo Ball. A lot of returns this week, and I think we're really starting to see the conferences take shape. Of course, with how close each conference is, right? 2-3 wins can make the difference between 2 or 3 seeds, whereas it used to be 1 seed a few years ago. So I think we have an idea of how good some of these teams are, but even a little bit of a fall off for, say, a team like the Warriors drops them down to the 4 seed where they are right now from what was the 1 seed last time me and you talked to each other. So we're really starting to see it take shape. Teams are getting healthy mostly, and so we're really starting to watch as this NBA season gets in full swing. Moving on to last Monday, we're gonna go all the way back for a little bit. I'm going to try to jog my memory. I have notes on some of these games of things I want to talk about, but obviously this has now been a week ago. The one I do remember, though, was the Knicks absolutely destroying the Nuggets. Probably their best win of the season to date, if you don't include their win over the Pelicans, heavily weak team, last night. And the Knicks are really cruising along, 12-8 on the season. I mean, just a few games behind the Magic. I mean, I think if you're a Knicks fan, saying we're going to be a few games behind the Celtics, right now they're 4 games behind the Celtics, this deep into the season, I think you take that. I don't think the Knicks were expecting to be a 60-win team, especially, let me clarify, especially after watching that first game against the Celtics, where it was like, yeah, the Celtics are just going to be really good. It's going to take time for us to figure things out. I don't think they would have expected to be right alongside the Celtics this early into the season with the Celtics coming off of a championship. So a great start for them, a dominant performance from them. Cat's been great. Brunson's had some up and down games. Mikal Bridges just had his best game last night. So great stuff for the Knicks. I mean, speaking of great starts, we have an all-star waiting in the wings here, LaMelo Ball. I mean, putting together, let's look up the stats, putting together an incredible season. I have said for years, if he can just stay healthy, like I don't know how he's not an all-star every single year he's healthy. I mean, he's putting up 31, 7, and 5. And this is not like this is I mean the scoring jump is definitely the biggest thing I would say, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. He's putting up so many more shots, so many more threes than we've ever seen him take, and at the same time, he's staying relatively efficient to the way he has been. Obviously, efficiency is not his strong suit. He shoots like 40-something% from the field, right? He's always done that. He's never been an efficient player. But from three, he's always shot about a little above 35%, and he's doing that again this year on 13 attempts per game. 13 three-point attempts per game. So, I mean, he's going to, on average, he's making about 5 threes a game. That is just ridiculous. That is a 15-point head start against other people. It's just ridiculous. And he's going to have an all-star season. He's going to have an all-NBA season if he stays healthy. 31 points is near the top of the entire NBA in scoring, let alone, just being an all-star. So I think he's currently on pace if he can stay healthy for majority of the season for an all-NBA type season on what is a Hornets team that I thought was going to be good and now are kind of tumbling their way down the Eastern Conference. So great job for him. Last thing on Monday was that Elfrid Payton came in and dropped 21 assists in a real NBA game in 2024. Elfrid Payton dropped 21 assists. Was very short-lived as the most assists of the season, as Trae Young would go on to pass it. But I turned that game on around the third quarter when I saw he had like 12, and I could not stop laughing just watching whatever the hell that was. That's it for Monday. We move on to Tuesday, getting back to the in-season tournament. Let's look up all the games. I want to make sure I don't miss. Make sure I don't miss any of those games in the in-season tournament. We're gonna pull a Basketball Reference here because we did have some big games in terms of keeping teams alive in their group out in the in-season tournament. So we'll go to scores here on Basketball Reference. I mean, the first one that I remember for sure was the Bucks win, I believe, without Giannis, if I'm not mistaken. This was a no Giannis game. That was Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday. We got to move our way back. Tuesday, here we are. Yeah, so the Bucks win. Dame has 37 points, and if I'm not mistaken, there was no Giannis in that game. I could be wrong. So a huge performance from Damian Lillard kept the Bucks 3-0, which now means that just if they beat the Pistons coming on Tuesday, they win their group, and a team that we were talking about having an awful start is now, winning their in-season tournament group undefeated and going on to the next round. Great job from them. Timberwolves, Minnesota, and I've had some rants about the Wolves. I have about a 2-minute long rant over on TikTok talking about similar stuff I'm going to mention here with the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is just a lot of the same thing every single game. It's deja vu. They go down 10, 15, maybe 20 points in a game around halftime, around the early part of the third quarter. They then storm back, get the crowd behind them, or in away games, kind of silence the crowd, steal the momentum, get back in the game, take maybe a 5-point lead with about 5, 6, 7 minutes to go, and then fumble it away at the end. And that is exactly what happened here. Literally, Anthony Edwards, if he makes that floater, we're talking completely different about the Wolves season, right? They beat the Rockets. They would go on to lose to the Kings the next night, but they beat the Rockets, and now they're, I believe, at 500. And even though, it's not their greatest, start to the season, obviously, they still have some wins that they can go there and be proud of. A win to kind of hang your hat on and go, okay, we can do this against a really, really good team. They did not do that. Good thing, though, was Rob Dillingham had a phenomenal game, plus 28 in a loss, and he didn't play in overtime pretty much at all till about the final minute. That's a story that if you really want to watch me dive into the Wolves, go watch that 2-minute rant that I posted over on TikTok on WordyBoss30. Just take a look at it. I talk about how Rob Dillingham should have played more and kind of Chris Finch's mistakes in that game. But nonetheless, great win for the Houston Rockets and a phenomenal game from Dillon Brooks as well. The Spurs also would get a win, and the Spurs look really good. They are a legitimate team in the Western Conference right now. I mean, they're ahead of the Timberwolves. They're one game. They're actually tied with the Nuggets, half a game behind the Suns, a game behind the Clippers. I mean, the Spurs are a win and a couple losses from other teams away from being like upper playing right now. So a big, big leap for them, and I think we always see that from Chris Paul. Stephon Castle has really found himself as well, having some really, really solid games. Wemby is also finding himself. He had a 30-point triple-double last night, which I'll get into a little bit later, and he also I also believe put up 30 in this game. Yeah, he did. He had 34 in this game against Utah. So a very, very great job from him. Suns beat the Lakers, which I believe knocked the Lakers out of the in-season tournament. So they no longer were able to defend their title anymore. Suns keep themselves alive in their group, which I believe is West Group B. And just when they have all three back, I mentioned KD and Beal came back. They just look like a completely different and a lot better of a team when they have all three of those guys there. So a very, very big win for them. And the Suns are hoping to move their way back up now that they got, those two guys back from injury, because they were starting to tumble when it was just Devin Booker trying to hold together that Suns team. Alrighty, that does it for Tuesday in the in-season tournament. Recap on to Wednesday, where we had a lot of individual performances on this Wednesday. And then, of course, no games on Thursday due to Thanksgiving. So everybody comes out on Thursday. We had a lot of games. I'm pretty sure about everybody in the NBA played, if not literally everybody in the NBA played. The first one I want to get into is just Harden, and he did this again last night, just out of nowhere, putting together ridiculous performances that we're used to seeing from him years ago and not anymore. And he's doing it now, and he's done it more than once. 43 points, 7 assists, 4 boards, 3 steals, and honestly, his game last night was even better against the Denver Nuggets. 7 threes, 13 for 22, 10 free throws on the night, hit 10 free throws. That is something we saw from prime James Harden, and they absolutely murder the Washington Wizards, who is another story we'll maybe get into towards the end of the episode, as they got a winless November, which is just insane. We had some more individual performances. Jalen Green and Tyrese Maxey have an incredible game, and this is why I kind of want to slow the brakes on Houston, because they are putting together some close games with everybody. They're definitely playing to their competition, and sometimes that holds, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that can cost you games, like what it does to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who play close with everybody. Sometimes they can lose to teams they shouldn't, but then sometimes they can beat teams that they probably shouldn't as well. So Houston definitely needs to be careful, but after last night, they should be very, very excited. Jalen Green, like I said, goes for 41 in that game. Let me find Tyrese Maxey's numbers as well. Yeah, he has 39, not his most efficient night, but 6 threes on the night. 39 points, 10 assists, 5 steals for Tyrese Maxey. Wasn't enough to get it done. Still waiting on Paul George and Joel Embiid to play, really. So I do feel for Sixers fans and just Sixers in general. We talked about how that Elfrid Payton assist performance didn't hold up as well, and that was because of our guy Trae Young putting up a 22 assist performance against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Cavs have lost, 3 times now on the season, if I'm not mistaken? 17-3, 18-3 after the win last night. And 2 of those losses are to the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks have lost twice to the Wizards, and the Hawks have also beaten the Cavs twice. So a very, very weird season for them, but a phenomenal game from Trae Young. I don't think it was actually super efficient. Yeah, it was not. 3 for 13 from 3, 6 for 18 from the field, but 20 points, 22 assists, and a win over the number one team in the NBA right now. You can never scoff at that. And then like I said, we got along to Thanksgiving, which brings us back to another in-season tournament recap and something we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, which is just the teams that clinched up. On this night, the Warriors clinched West Group C, the Hawks clinched East Group C, and the Rockets also clinched West Group A. So those three teams are guaranteed in, like we talked about earlier. There's a couple groups that need to shape out, which will also shape out the wildcard team. Excuse me. That makes it through as well. Really nothing crazy, I don't believe, to talk about from those games. I'll double check the stat boxes here, but there really wasn't much to kind of write home about. Franz Wagner had a great game against Brooklyn. Tatum had a great game against Chicago. This one was a weird one, though, because game started at like 11, so I'm not going to lie, I did not miss a lot of these games, but I definitely didn't see as much as I could have with a lot of these games, just based on how it was. Clippers Minnesota was a very, very funny game. If you have not seen the end of that game, go check out the highlights. The Wolves held the ball for the final 50 seconds because Chris Dunn slipped over a banana peel on the court, just lost the ball. Clippers don't foul. Wolves go on to miss another shot, but get the own rebound again. It was just a weird, weird day. Sacramento fans went nuts on this day because they lost to Portland, as Sacramento has, I believe, one win in their last 7, which, funnily enough, for a Wolves fan, is against the Minnesota Timberwolves. But they're 9-12. They're looking like they could be the team that's guaranteed going to be left out, because some of these other teams, you're thinking Suns haven't been fully healthy, Clippers haven't been fully healthy, even the Mavericks haven't been fully healthy, and the Kings are still just 9-12, and they've been healthy most of the year. I mean, Malik Monk's been injured. I think Fox and Sabonis have maybe missed one game each, but I mean, yeah, they literally, like, they have just been bad with their entire team there. So it's hard to really think that they're going to do much better than what they're doing right now. Yeah, overall, I think a good slate of games, just at a weird time with the NBA, happening on Black Friday, happening at 11 in the morning on a Friday. So we'll ignore that for now, because they did put together a great slate on Sunday, but I also have a complaint about that as well. Saturday, again, a little bit of a slower day in terms of full slate, but we did have some crazy performances. One of which being Giannis. Giannis puts together a 42-point triple-double against Washington. And Milwaukee, again, they're not looking amazing, right? But they're getting wins. These were games where they were playing this good and they just couldn't close it out. They're not doing that anymore. They are playing not great and still putting together enough to get wins. And they're all the way up to 5th in the Eastern Conference. They're 10-9, and Giannis is putting together what is an MVP-like season. I'm going to go look up his stats right now, because if I'm not mistaken, we talked about Jokic having career highs in basically every stat. Giannis is pretty close to doing the same, if I'm not mistaken. He's putting up 32.9 points on the year, which leads the entire NBA. That is the leader in points in scoring this NBA season. Also 1.4 blocks, which is the same as his DPO, more than his DPOY season. The steals are down, but more blocks than his DPOY season. He's also putting up 6 assists per game, which puts him at a career high by 0.1, but nevertheless a career high, and 12 boards per game, which would be his 3rd highest in his career, the highest since he won MVP in 2019-2020 and 2018-2019. He's putting together a crazy season. Now, the debate is going to be, can those numbers pair up with Jokic? Is the team going to be good enough to be as good as, say, the Nuggets might be this season? So we'll see where the MVP conversation goes, especially with teams like the Thunder that look like they're going to be so good in the West that maybe Shea's numbers don't need to be as much to win MVP. But Giannis, certainly right now it looks like a 1-2 with him and Jokic. I'm still picking Jokic because, I mean, a 32-point triple-double or whatever the hell he has is absolutely ridiculous. But we need to give Giannis his flowers. They're deserved, and he's looking like he's going to put together another MVP-like season, at least top 3 finisher, as long as he stays healthy. We talked about the Warriors a little bit earlier, and they are starting to tumble. And this is what we talked about with how people call the East super weak, and it's like anybody can go up and down in the Eastern Conference, or we should say anybody can go up in the Eastern Conference even with a bunch of losses like we saw with the Bucks earlier this year. The West is the opposite. Anybody can go down at any given time. So the Warriors started out the season like 10-1 or whatever it was, like 10-2. And then they get to, I believe, 12-2, 12-3, tied for the 1 seed, or I believe the sole 1 seed, the sole possession of the 1 seed in the Western Conference over the Thunder. And ever since then, they go on, their last 5 or the last 10, they're 5-5. And that drops them all the way down to 4. And really, I mean, that puts them in a situation where if they drop a game to the Mavericks, Lakers, Clippers, and Suns, so if all 4 of those teams win and the Warriors lose, the Warriors are the 8th seed. That is how good this Western Conference is, and that's why everything has to be taken with a grain of salt. When we're talking how bad these Eastern Conference teams are, like the Bucks, I always said, keep it with a grain of salt. The Bucks go on a 5-game win streak, they're right back in it. That's what they did. Teams like the Timberwolves, teams like the Kings, teams like the Spurs, Nuggets that we've talked about being like, yeah, they might miss out. A few wins here and there, and we're instead talking about them being in the upper half of a really good Western Conference and somebody else being lower. So everything has to be taken with a grain of salt here, just because things are going to switch so fast. But I do think we do have some solidified teams like the Thunder, like the Cavs, like the Celtics, like the Knicks. But honestly, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs for a lot of teams this year. So you just kind of got to push some of these noise away. The Warriors, you go on a little losing streak, last 4, all losses, and you just hope you can get back on track and keep your way up, because the seeding is going to be so important come playoff time against these good teams. And we have made it all the way to Sunday. We actually rolled through this pretty fast. There wasn't much to talk about, so honestly, if I picked a good week to not record on Friday due to Thanksgiving the day before, so honestly, it works out because I wouldn't have had much to talk about over the course of the last 3 days other than the in-season tournament and then yesterday and Sunday. So Victor Wembanyama puts up another crazy game, a triple-double, a 34, I think like 11-10 or something like that for Victor Wembanyama. He really has broken out. He started very slow this season. I still think he's going to win MIP. I understand there's a lot of players that could be candidates for most improved, but for me, Wemby's going to be like go from a non-all-star, non-all-NBA. All he was all defense and depoy, which I know is a lot. He was a defensive player of the year candidate, but he's going to go from that to likely winning defensive player of the year and likely making an all-star game, likely making all-NBA, getting MVP votes maybe, right, on the fifth, maybe 4th or 5th in MVP if his stats go crazy like that. Definitely first team all defense, all that sort of stuff, where he's going to put together overall a good case, even if I personally disagree with how MIP works, if they're going to do it that way. But still, I think he's going to win MIP, and a great game from him. And Harden does it once again. James Harden in this game, I believe, was even better. Let me look at the exact of the box score. It was definitely better than what he did on that Wednesday against the Wizards. James Harden against the Denver Nuggets goes for 39 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 board shy of a triple-double, and 10 for 26 and 6 3-pointers on the day. Not his most efficient day from 2, but from 3 he was amazing. And again, he's getting to the free throw line. 13 for 13 from the free throw line. So he's getting there, and he's not missing when he works his way to that free throw line. So phenomenal stuff from him and from the Clippers to pick up some big wins. I was really low on the Clippers. The Clippers were one of my teams that I said was going to miss, right? The Pelicans one, I can just say, oh, well, you know what I mean? Like, they got so hurt that there's pretty much no way for them back in unless it's like the 10 or 9 seed. So I can just kind of take that one on the chin and go, I can't really control that. But the Clippers, I definitely picked to be low. Like, I literally said they're just not going to be the same. And so far, I've looked completely wrong. 4 games above 500. Obviously, like I said in the West, 3-game losing streak. And they're looking right back to where I predicted them, at that. I predicted them at 13, but with the Pelicans below, roughly the 12 seed. And, I mean, yeah, I look completely wrong. And there's a couple wrong picks I've got as well. The Rockets, I did not predict to be this good. I don't think anybody did. The Grizzlies, I predicted to be good, but not this good. The ones that I'm looking pretty good on so far are the Thunder, obviously. The Grizzlies look good. The Mavericks look good. The Lakers look good. But I predicted the Suns to be, I think, like 5 or 6. They're 8. I predicted the Nuggets to be 3. They're 9 right now. I don't think they're going to be 3, if I'm being completely honest. So we'll see how it goes. But again, it's a very close Western Conference to debate. The last thing is just a gripe I have with the NBA. They talk so much about how viewership is an issue, and reasons and things like this are the reason why. The Cavs play the Celtics, the Rockets play the Thunder. I understand the NBA, you probably weren't expecting to have 1 versus 2 on the same day in each conference, right? Rockets 2, Thunder 1, Cavs 1, Celtics 2. You weren't expecting that. There's got to be a schedule, though, to be able to flex some of these games to prime time, because you wonder why you're losing viewership. Well, I mean, for one, the Celtics, you love to put them on national TV anyway, so why not just do it? Thunder, same excuse. You want to put them on national TV. You've got the 1 versus 2 seed. You can promote the 1 versus 2 seed all over social media with TV ads, anything like that, and put it on national TV. And it just doesn't, they're not doing it. The NFL, you'll see flexes those games, right? Weeks in advance, right? If they see at week 13, okay, Packers Vikings might be for the division or whatever, Packer Lions might be for the division, they'll flex that game to Sunday Night Football. They'll flex that game to a Saturday night game or to 3:30 to be the game of the week. The NBA doesn't really do that. They rarely flex primetime games. Usually it's just when a star gets hurt and they just take that game off primetime. So let's say Wemby's hurt, they'll take the Spurs off primetime and instead put Lakers versus whoever or Boston versus whoever. And they're just missing out on opportunities to show the world these new up and coming players. And I understand you want to put people like Steph Curry, LeBron, Tatum, known people on national TV so you can get people to view. But if you want some of these new younger guys to be known by the time LeBron, KD, Curry start to come out of the league and retire, you need to promote these guys at a young age. Anthony Edwards has been promoted so well, and you need to start doing things like that with Shea, with Donovan Mitchell, with even a guy like Evan Mobley, a guy like Alfred Sengun. Jokic is so known. And I understand Sengun isn't the same player as Jokic, obviously, but he is so phenomenal, and he plays in a very similar way, that playmaking, physical, big, that you feel like you just got to put some of these teams on national television just to get some of these people used to the names. If the Rockets do truly stay at the 2 seed, and they are really this good, and they stay at 2 in the Western Conference, despite how good this Western Conference is, how harmful is it for your ratings in the playoffs for people to go, oh, Rockets against, I don't know, Grizzlies in in round 1, 2 versus 7? Like, people are going to not really tune into that other than for John Morant, because they don't know who the Rockets are. They don't know their players and all that sort of stuff. So I really hope the NBA does a better job at promoting these games, because I'm tired of having nationally televised games just be NBA TV. I believe the Cavs Celtics last night was an NBA TV game. You can do better than that, and you wonder why your ratings are down. It's because you don't put your young and up-and-coming products on national TV. Mahomes was put on national TV on his way up, and it led to him being so known when he got to that Super Bowl that now you can't not put him at 3:30, right? If he's not playing Sunday Night Football, you've got to put the Chiefs at 3 o'clock. You just have to. Or you put him on Black Friday, because you know Mahomes is going to get ratings, right? Even if it's Friday afternoon, he's going to get ratings. And I just want to see more of that from the NBA. Done with that rant and done with the episode. If you guys made it all the way, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching over on Spotify, if you're watching over on YouTube, be sure to go check out my Spotify, Wordy Boss 30, around the world. You will find me. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to go watch me over on YouTube, Wordy Boss 30, around the world. Search it up. You guys will find me, and links are in the description of both the YouTube video and, of course, the Spotify podcast episode as well. Leave comments, leave feedback. Anything you guys can give to me would be greatly appreciated. Tell a friend, expand the community, expand the podcast. It would be really helpful for me and for the channel as a whole. Once again, if you made it to the end, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on Friday for episode 16 of Around the World.